Hey, welcome to another episode of the Not Scrum Dumb podcast. I'm your co-host, Andriana Marshall, and that's my amazing co-host.
Grad Scrum Master Scott, greetings.
Today, we're going to be talking about the difference between Kanban and Scrum. This is one question that is always asked, like, should my team use Scrum? Should my team use Kanban? I will say, a spoiler alert, it is up to your team to make that decision, but we want to give you a little bit of background to help you make that decision. So today we're going to be talking about the origins of both, the principles, the accountabilities and responsibilities, the workflows and the events, and then also best use cases for Scrum and Kanban. All right, Scott, kick us off. What about the origins?
Well, first of all, I would like to make a disclosure and say Scrum is younger than I am, and Kanban is older than I am. So Scrum originated with software development 20 something years ago at this particular point to address complex problems. And Scrum was made out of a need up until that particular point in time. We only had project management where we plan everything up front and then we execute that plan. I was introduced to Kanban back in the 90s when my first job was at General Motors in Buffalo, New York. If you know anything about manufacturing, lean and Kanbans was actually created there in the manufacturing environment. So we talking like what, Henry Ford? Yeah. I said, yes, it's older than I am, right? Yeah. I remember the 1980s where I had a little Toyota Corolla. Back in the 1980s, if you had a Toyota Corolla, you was laughed at. But Toyota used lean and took it to a whole nother level. As you can see, Kanban has been around for a very, very long time. Toyota manufactured in Japan really made Kanban like super duper popularized around the world back when they turned the company around by using lean methodology and Kanban specifically. Now, Kanban, the word itself means to make visible. We want to make things transparent. Androna.
Yeah, so for me, I learned Scrum first, which Kanban is so different than Scrum that it took a little bit to understand some of the differences. So I'll talk a little bit about the core principles. Well, I think most people watching this channel understand the Scrum principles. It's built off of empiricism, transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Pretty easy to wrap your head around that. Also, we believe in self organization and cross functional teams and time boxing sprints to make sure that we deliver. That was my introduction way back when I first started working in tech. I learned Scrum. So it was a little different when you go to Kanban and you're like, okay, what are the core principles? What is this built off of? And you not as much. There is a lot to it. Scott went over it quite a bit, but it's really about visualizing the work and the workflow. And that took me a little bit to get my head around. I was like, well, is it about empiricism when it's really about making sure we're doing it just in time and that we're limiting work in progress so that we can get more done? Which is funny because you can also use that same thing in Scrum, limiting work in progress. We don't have the defined sprints like we do in Scrum, but there is a focus on continuous improvement through managing flow. In Scrum, we look at continuous improvement both as individuals, as a Scrum team, and of course, our work. Kanban looking to continuously improve through managing the flow of work. Took me a while to adjust to that because you're always wondering when is something going to get done. There are different ways that you can still measure and understand when work will be done. You don't need sprints to do that. So those are the core principles. Scott, you want to talk to us about accountabilities and responsibilities?
Definitely. Well, Scrum has three definite roles. We identify with the Scrum Master, we identify with the product owner, and the developers who do the work. Those are the different roles within a Scrum team. Each role has clear responsibilities, ensuring accountability and some type of structure. It's a lightweight framework. Kanban is a framework as well, different than a methodology. Now, when you think about Kanban, there are no roles. As Andriana identified before, when she got the Kanban, I was like, okay, who's going to do what? When is it going to be done? So we had to figure that out. Back when I was at General Motors, I was a process engineer. I was the lead project manager. As the project manager, I would assume the leader role of getting everybody together. I was dealing with packaging engineers, mechanical engineers, people like that. So since I was the project manager, leading the team where we need to go and making sure everybody understood Kanban really just fell up underneath me. Your environment may be different, depending upon what your role is and how the team, everybody in the room gets together to figure that out. Who's going to do what? Again, there is not a definite word. Nowadays, you may hear something called a Kanban lead. That's something that some corporation made up. But if you look at the pure Kanban framework itself, you won't see any roles identified other than HR for some company. John.
Yeah, so that kinda goes into talking about that structure. In Scrum, we have events, right? So we have our sprint planning, we have our daily Scrum, we have our sprint review, we have our retrospective, we have our overall sprint, but in Kanban, we don't have that, which I think makes it very interesting. I know we also talked about how in Scrum, you have accountability, so you understand, like, this person's gonna do this, and we're gonna have this structure, we're gonna meet here. In Kanban, you have to have really great communication to be able to focus more on the continuous flow of work and not have any prescribed events or meetings. Your team, instead of having a sprint retrospective, you're having discussions as needed to help improve. Now, I will say when I worked with the Kanban team, they had a monthly meeting. They set up a monthly meeting to discuss things to improve. Don't get me wrong, they did it on a daily basis, but they wanted that dedicated time in case things got too busy or a little out of control, because sometimes that does happen. It's not something we're aiming for, but sometimes like, oh man, I'm too busy for this, or I'm too busy for that. Or we send someone a message, but we don't really follow through. So that was kind of their mechanism, which is to take something from Scrum and add it in so that they're continuously improving. From what I've experienced, Kanban requires a lot better communication. You don't have these prescribed events as checkpoints. So you have to do them in real time if you want to see improvement and continuously follow up. So even though Scrum clearly says self-managing teams, you really do have to be self-managing team with Kanban as well. All right, Scott, let's talk about the use cases. What's the best use cases for Scrum? What are the best use cases for Kanban?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I get that question asked an awful lot. When should I use Scrum? When should I use Kanban? And my rule of thumb is it's just my professional opinion and my years of being in the business. If I am going to deliver the customer a physical product, something they can see, touch, feel, apply the five senses of a human being, then I'm going to use Scrum. Now, I'm thinking about annual enrollment benefits. For somebody in the world, it's time for you to renew your benefits. Are you going to get dental insurance? Are you going to get health insurance? Now, as you go through that process, you're probably going to have an awful lot of complaints. You're going to have questions about your policy. Hey, why did the premium go up? So you're going to call a call center, and that call center is going to send those tickets from your complaints, your recommendations, or whatever it may be. That's going to go to a team inside the organization. Tickets could be ServiceNow or some platform like that. But those are all things that you're complaining about, or it could be that the platform is not working right. So either way, in that case, we're not building anything new. We just servicing something that's already there, the customer is using, but there's some bugs with it. We're not making anything new. It's just bugs. So thinking about a call center for those of you who may not be familiar with what I'm saying. Think about a call center. You call in and you got somebody to help you through your problem. They're not building anything new for you. They're not giving you anything new. They're just helping you go through your problem, fix your current problem. So now the team has all these tickets from annual enrollment. Somebody have to fix these things, or somebody have to do something with that to make sure you have a better experience the next time, or to make sure we get your problem solved. And I think Kanban is a great tool for that because now we have you can think of it as a backlog. There is no official backlog in Kanban, but we'll call it that. Wherever you keep all these tickets at from the customers calling in with their issues, now we got to figure out, okay, which is the most urgent. We have that discussion amongst the team members, and then we pull that and we work on that one thing until we get it all the way to the end to be complete, like fixing that particular person's problem. In some, Scrum is ideal for projects requiring structure, phases, iterative progress, and collaboration is best suited for teams working on complex projects where you actually are delivering something tangible. And Kanban is perfect for teams handling unpredictable workflows and ongoing maintenance of things. Okay. Built the app already. Let's say a Scrum team did that. Now we need to service that particular application. I think Kanban would be a better approach to use to service to do the maintenance on that app. We're not building it. Adriana.
All right. So to do a quick recap of what we already went through, high level, Scrum is very structured. It has very clear events and accountabilities, whereas this Kanban is more flexible and really focuses on visualizing the work and the flow. So we went over the origins, the core principles, the accountabilities and responsibilities, the workflow and events, and then some of the best use cases. I will say you can switch them up as you see fit. Just understand Kanban really requires good communication. You don't have these structured events to help you in case you forget to say something or forget to do something. You really need to be in constant communication and following up with Kanban in order to continuously improve. The last thing I want to highlight with the difference with Kanban versus Scrum, it's just really important to communicate with your team and figure out what works best for you guys. It's okay to do something and then realize, okay, this isn't the best for us. Why don't we switch it back? I've seen teams do that where they started with Scrum, they use Kanban. Some teams use both Scrum and Kanban, and there's nothing wrong with that. That way, they're dipping their toe in, they're getting the benefits of both. Some do a full switch to Kanban, some do Scrum, Kanban, and then switch right back to Scrum, and that's okay. You're doing what's best for you. There's nothing wrong with trying anything out. All right. So if you want to learn more from us, you can reach out to us via LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn's are in the description. So are some of our products and our websites. You can get some free resources and also paid resources, and you can connect with us via our newsletter. Subscribe down below. If you like this video, hit like, comment, ask us a question. We'll answer them. All right. If you made it to the end of this video, that means you have an attention span greater than a goldfish.
Be legendary, but not Scrum Dumb.